We good? Hello, hello. We're going to be starting our live stream and our talks in about 4 minutes. So we are live streaming, so if you don't want to be seen on the internet, please don't sit in these first two tables. And please take your seats. If you need to use the restroom or get drinks, please wait until after the talks are finished. So make those final bathroom run and drink grabs right now, and then we'll get started in a few minutes. Good. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Devshop San Francisco. I want to introduce our first speakers. They're going to be speaking about BDD using Meteor and Cucumber. Our speakers are Sam Hatoum and John James. Sam is the founder of Zolvier, a testing and automation consultancy, and has been working on testing in Meteor for over 2 years. He's a core Velocity team member, the author of the Meteor testing manual, and the creator of the Meteor Cucumber testing framework. John is going to be joining Sam. John's the CTO of 3 Ring, a venture-backed education startup. He spearheaded their transition from Rails to Meteor last year, migrating almost 1 million users. He's also a core organizer of the Meteor NYC meetup and the author of several Meteor packages. Please welcome John and Sam.
All right, hello. So I've been doing Agile for about 11 years now. I set up my consultancy to help companies deliver software faster through automation and consulting.
Yeah, so as was said, I'm the CTO at a startup called 3 Ring. We are like a real-time evidence-based learning platform, work in enterprise, and we have about 1.6 million user-uploaded posts in the app right now. And we're running on Meteor. So anyway, Sam and I were out drinking after the Devshop a few months ago, and he told me I should try his Reactive BDD framework. And I hit him up about a month later and told him that I had pretty much my entire team doing BDD. And so we decided we'd join forces today and show you guys how this is possible. And it's actually pretty easy with Meteor now.
So you've identified a problem and you've got a good solution for it. BDD can help you in all these ways. In this particular talk, we're going to be focusing on how to communicate effectively using BDD and how it helps you deliver higher quality faster.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how big your team is. You can start using BDD right away. It's quick to get into, and we're going to show you how in a second. But thanks to Sam and Zolvia's work, Meteor developers can get into it pretty much faster than anyone else.
Does this diagram look familiar to anyone?
Yeah, so who out there has built something for a project over like hours, days, or even weeks, just to turn it in and find out it was completely wrong?
So it turns out this problem has actually existed since the 60s. Could it be that we've not learnt much in the last 40 years? And so the crux of this problem is actually ineffective communication.
So we encountered this exact problem at 3Ring as we scaled to the point where pretty much everybody who was concerned with product was unable to keep track of everything that was actually going on in product development. Engineering was getting hit from all directions, bug reports, feature requests, random scribbles and chats. And people started giving me dirty looks when I told them to look at Jira to figure out where we were. So I started thinking of ways to manage our interactions with the rest of the team. And yeah, so BDD was great for that.
And this is where BDD comes in because, so Dan North came up with it. He's a guy from England, where this accent is from. And he wanted to bridge the gap between technology and business. And so he defines it as BDD is about implementing an application by describing its behavior from the perspective of its stakeholders. So if you take the stakeholder perspective, create some behavior definition, then you use that behavior definition to drive the development, hence the term behavior-driven development.
Yeah, so the key is to have really clearly defined behavior, and that's actually not as easy as it sounds because typically everybody involved comes from a different background and speaks a different language and has different concerns driving them.
So one way to get a good understanding between everyone is to use examples. For example, let's say John is a business guy and he says,
yeah, I want you to build me a homing portal.
it's a homing portal.
I don't know.
Can you give me an example?
No, I can't.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, actually it's it's when a registered user signs in and they see like a welcome page.
Ah, that's a homing portal. Okay, well, now we have a kind of understanding is used in example. So we can take this example and use this to define the behavior. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use this scenario here, a homing portal, and we're going to say, given the user has registered, when they sign in, then they see a welcome screen. Notice the given, when, then scenario. The given, when, and then are deceptively useful. They give you the preconditions, the action that has to happen, and the thing that you can assert on after. And you don't have to be a developer to understand this. Anyone from the business can see this and go, oh yeah, I know what that means.
Yeah, so now that everybody's speaking the same language, you can deep dive into the details of what you're trying to work on. And you can kind of go into every possible like option or scenario that it would be used in and lay that out. And that's, if you're a naturally inquisitive person or like a detail-loving engineer, then it's like a really fun part of BDD. It gives you a platform to sort things out faster and like keep track of your findings better.
And really bug the business. So this is actually a great way to create a shared understanding between everyone. It's using these examples. Now, there's more to the communication problem than just getting a shared understanding. There is also...
Yeah, so one thing that I noticed at 3Ring was ideas about the product were scattered across emails, Slack, drawings, text messages. Each team working on the product had the overhead of translating it into something actionable for themselves.
And so when you use examples as the common language, you can now have one place where you put all these examples. So if you have a bunch of definitions of the behavior, they can all live in one place and everyone can use them as reference. And this leads to the elusive single source of truth that you might hear in some circles, especially the agile ones. Now we're going to show you how to put this theory into practice. So how do you go from an idea to a delivered using BDD? On the left, you have an idea, and on the right, you have money. And there's someone who's going to do a talk shortly that's going to tell you all about making money. And this is how 3Ring did it.
Yeah, so pretty much everything ever built started with an idea. So let's take 3Ring's idea, which is what if teachers could upload and share student learning experiences. And it's a pretty good idea. We really need to turn it into something more useful, though, to actually build it. And a good way to add extra context is the story format. So as a stakeholder, I want some feature so that I can have some benefit. And the best part of that format is it forces you to acknowledge the benefit that your idea brings to the target user. So for 3-ring, here's what we did. As a teacher, I want to upload student work and performances so that I can demonstrate student growth. And with this, we have a really clear idea of the who, the what, and the why.
Now, when I'm consulting with clients, I tell them that they can use this story context, which gives them really good information, to create a design or a wireframe or a mock-up. From this, create a higher fidelity design and keep communicating this until you get a really clear picture of what you're trying to do. Then take one slice of what you're doing, one really useful slice, and then create a scenario from that slice.
Yeah, so our slice is, for this, would be like a progress bar. Given I have a media file of student work, when I start the file upload, then I can track the progress of my upload. And yeah, this scenario is pretty much ready to be designed and coded and referenced later.
And so Dan North will be very happy because he said that you should describe the behavior from the perspective of the stakeholders, and that's exactly what we've done here. We looked at the point of view of the teacher, and we said from their point of view, they're going to do the media file upload, and they're going to track the progress.
So the next step is to take this clearly defined behavior you have and use it to actually drive development. Depending on your process, you could take this and turn it into a set of tests that you can use in sort of a test-driven development style. As I said earlier, Sam's work with Zolvio and their different tools for this have made it really easy for developers to do this stuff with Meteor.
Well, thank you, John. So we're going to show you how to do this now with Meteor, how you actually do BDD with Meteor. So in order to deploy an app to production, you need to first code and test it, if you're going to do some testing, and then you're going to build it, and then you need to deploy it. In this presentation, we're only going to show you the code and test part using Meteor. And also, the example we're going to use is actually from my book, the Meteor Testing Manual, which you can see there. And the example itself is about writing a book that you can sell. Crazy, right? So as an author, I want to curate a landing page so that I can entice people to purchase my book. So the scenario here is I want to write the header part of this landing page with Markdown. So given I have created a landing page with this Markdown, when a user navigates to the landing page, then they see the following elements. All right, so I hope you can see this. What I'm doing here is, first of all, this is quite a technical demo, so it requires a little bit of understanding about velocity. If you don't know much about Velocity Cucumber, I advise very much that you go to velocity.meteor.com. I'm still going to go through step by step and explain everything, but I just wanted to give that little forewarning. So what you can see here is WebStorm, and at the bottom, I just have a console. And all I'm going to do is start Meteor. Now, letterpress is the example that's used in the book. And it's running Zolvio Cucumber. And here, Zolvio Cucumber tells me that I can tail the log of Cucumber over in another window here. So that's what I'll do. What you're looking at there is another Meteor application that's running in parallel to my app. So there's actually two Meteor applications running right now. One where my code runs, and the other one is where the features will be running against. So there it says there's zero scenarios and 0 steps. So I will just go back up here. Oops. And I will copy the exact same thing that we created. And I will paste it in here. And so I've taken the exact English and I've pasted it into Cucumber. And I'll save it. And it reruns, just like Meteor does with everything, but nothing happens because it says to me I need to use the dev tag. Now what the dev tag does is, as soon as I put it somewhere, it starts rerunning this scenario every time I save a file. So it's allowing me to focus on one scenario at a time. Now what just happened is Cucumber told me very smartly that, great, you've ran this, but you haven't implemented these step definitions. So it says you can implement these step definitions with these snippets. So I'll grab them all. I'll just copy paste them. And I'll put them into the steps file. And here you can see, if I save this and rerun it, it's a slightly different problem. It says 5 skipped errors. Let's have a look and see what that looks like here in Velocity. I've got a little red dot up here that says things aren't working. So I click it, and it says these steps were skipped. That's because I'm using callback pending. So now I'm going to start automating these steps. So I have created a landing page with this markdown. Notice that this string is the markdown that's being passed through from here. So I have created a landing page with this markdown, passes this string into here. So I'll take this string, and I'll say this.server.call.
Yeah, so this .server is actually a DDP connection to the mirror where the tests are being run.
And remember, the mirror is a parallel application. So then we can say this.server.call, and then we say then, which is a promise, rather than having to use callbacks and nested callbacks. And we pass in the callback. And this now is going to call a method, a Meteor method, to do the page creation. So now this will be like, given I have created the page with this markdown, and it's passing the markdown, it would do it here. So then a user navigates to the landing page. Well, what you also get in Solvia Cucumber is this.client, which is a WebDriver browser. So it's a Selenium browser. It's just like a user accessing the page. And in here, you can say process.env.root URL. And then again, like before, you call callback. And so this is how you keep automating the steps. And Solvia Cucumber makes it very easy by giving you two very important things: a connection to the mirror, so you can create pages, and also a connection to the browser where you can go and test the page. So rather than actually do this automation now, here's one that I made earlier. And so here it's actually doing the server call like I just did before, and it's doing a URL, and then it's waiting for things to exist, and everything in here has been automated. So I'm going to move this to the side, save the file, and Velocity will recognize that this has been changed. It will rerun, and now you can see that all the tests have passed. And so this is what we call reactive BDD. It's happening in real time, every time you save, just like everything else in Meteor. Let's see what happens when I go and change something to break the test. So this is how the app works. If I just put a typo in there and save, it will rerun, and the tests will inevitably fail. And that's how I know to go back and correct this and go, oh, something's gone wrong with my code. I can go and investigate, see what happened, fix it, and get the feedback. And once I've finished with this scenario, I know that this is working. Great, thank you very much. I'll take this dev tag, and I will move on to my next scenario, which would have come from the business. And this is how you can keep the momentum up, building scenario after scenario for all the things that have been defined collectively between the business and the technology. Tell you a couple more things. That what I can do in here in the console is, first I can run in development mode, but I can also say velocity CI, and I can run this with --test on any CI server. So I can move this up to Circle CI or CodeShip or whatever you're using, run this command, and it will do the same tests on the CI server. And if you find it's a bit slow, and you've got maybe 1,000 tests, and they're all taking about 10 seconds each, that's a lot of time, then Meteor Cucumber has now got the ability to have parallel nodes, and it will start up many mirrors. So if I right now say Cucumber nodes 5, what it's actually going to do is start 5 separate mirrors for me, and they will all run in parallel. So it will divide the test time, the total execution time of all the tests, not by 5, but nearly 5.
Yeah, we have like hundreds and hundreds of tests at our company, so this is pretty great for us.
All right, and so that was the demo.
Yeah, so I just want to sort of clarify a few things before we end the talk. Yeah, so why is BDD great for business people? One thing you'll notice as a business person is that you feel like you're less in the dark than you did before. Dealing with teams working on building the product, you're more concerned about how far along things are than whether things are being done right. And then, why is BDD good for developers? One thing, definitely less scope creep and less like scope creepy ideas, like kind of randomly making themselves into the sort of product roadmap and process. Less interruption when you're developing. More confidence, like you're not just going to work on something all night and then have someone like not be excited about it the next day. And more freedom to dig into things when you have a good amount of test coverage. So,
and finally, at Solvia, we're constantly making tools to improve the BDD process. So you saw the thing where you can run the tests really quickly now with parallel mirrors. We obviously wrote Meteor Cucumber, and we're in the process of building Simian.io, which takes these features out and gives you like a hackpad-style app that you can collaborate with business people and chat against the actual features. And then you can use these to put into GitHub, and then from there you can go and drive the development. So we're in the business of BDD, and if any of you want to do BDD, then you should get in touch with us. That's it.
the question?
So the question was, where can we find an example of a large suite of tests other than in the book? And the answer is that in Meteor, it's still quite new. And the place where I am making the fullest effort to actually do continuous deployment, including all the BDD stuff, is using letterpress. So it is the book, but finally now we're at a stage where we can focus on this stuff, because before it's been a moving part and a lot of things with velocity, learning along the way. Now it's really, really stable and it's super fast. So with these things in place, we're going to focus on getting the book out, and letterpress will be the place. You can also look in other places outside of Meteor for larger tests. Cucumber's been around for ages with the Ruby community, and there's already a bunch of projects out there. I can't name any, but there's a bunch that you can find. They'll be close enough in figuring out how to do scenarios, but not so much the coding level at Meteor level.
One of the things as a designer when you're working through a problem is you come across a number of different ways of potentially solving a problem. So if you're a teacher and you want to measure progress, you might have the media file, you might have the amount of time that they spend on the site, where they abandon or what have you. So I guess the question is there a general kind of practice that you have around how many stories a scenario will consist of? Like how far down the different kind of possibilities you go before you determine that it's enough?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the scenarios all have to be relatable back to the original story. And as far as how many, it really depends. A lot of times you can't really figure everything out in one sitting, so things just evolve over time. So you kind of get to the point where rather than adding new scenarios, you're kind of going back and you're what happened with this scenario that we already wrote? We need to fix this. And that's kind of an easy way to keep people in the maintenance realm when you're evolving the product as development.
And the other thing is to always add personas at the top. So you say, as a teacher. Now you can say, as a teacher, that is, or as a teacher, and you can really specialize the actors. And if you find that the feature's growing too big, it's a good chance to break it and break out into another feature.
Cool.
That's all right, go ahead.
How much reusable tests do you steps do you define? For instance, would it be reasonable to have a step where you do something when I click this element and you use a selector as the parameter?
Right.
In order to create a reusable step definition? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, so the question was, how many reusable steps can you create where, we gave the example with Markdown, where you put in the custom Markdown, how far can you go with that as a developer with the tests to have reusable steps? And the answer is, I think in the beginning, when you're organizing things, you tend to do a lot of that, as much as possible. We started with probably 12 reusable steps just for navigation, or for I am logged in, or something like that, really, where you don't have to write the whole login step every time you write a new feature. But there's a testing pattern for writing reusable code that allows you to keep your scenarios in a business language while reusing code in the background, and that's called page objects. And there's also, I believe there's a widget pattern that's very similar to that that's actually coming out for Meteor Cucumber.
That's right, yeah. So Meteor Cucumber uses something we created called Chimp, and we're creating Chimp widgets, which do exactly that. So then you can define a widget along with all the things that the widget can do, and then from your steps, you can just have very, very minimal code references, and that way you can keep the business language in the steps. One more question there. Mike.
Yeah, one more.
Go ahead.
So, it seems like there's a little bit extra complexity here in parsing English to invoke the test, and it seems like something else that could go wrong or something. Does that happen, or how does that work?
You mean in the sense of you have to keep relating your code to the natural language?
Yeah, exactly. So there's this parsing step, there's a connection, and
Right.
the regex or something doesn't really match or something,
Oh, sure.
etc.
Yeah, I think basically that's something you'll figure out as you're writing your tests, and that things are failing, and they're failing for no reason. You're going through and you're oh, I wrote that wrong. But aside from that, I think that's kind of where the Sam showed us how Cucumber gives you the pre-written test examples when you're just getting started before you have actually any like code tests written. So that kind of takes care of that for you, like out of the box. In a sense, you can just copy that in, and then it has the things in the right place.
Cucumber's very good at it, basically.
Yeah.
It'll say to you, I don't see this step, where is it? And then you can try and match it up. That's one level. And then another level is that you might want to start, you might find that when you have 1,000 of these scenarios and steps, then you know, wait a minute, does that mean the same as the other one? And that's exactly why we're building Simian, to be able to help define things that are in the English language, but have the right tools around being able to refactor still the English language. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our second speaker is Dominic Nguyen. He's the design lead and co-founder of Percolate Studio. Percolate is a San Francisco software design and engineering agency. They're the ones behind the Atmosphere.js catalog of Meteor packages, and they also brought us the official Meteor example apps to do and local market. Dom will be presenting on how to design for Realtime.
Hey everyone. Thanks for being here. Today I'm here to talk to you about designing for Realtime. So, you finally wrapped your head around this real-time JavaScript thing. Your apps are snappy and quick to build. But now your app is in production. There are thousands of folks banging on your code, and data is flooding in. Your reactive interfaces are updating so fast, folks can't tell what's happening. Layouts are breaking, and it's impossible to track down what's causing UI changes. You thought you knew how to use tools like Meteor and React and Node, but you don't. Simply knowing the technology isn't enough. You need to design for real-time. In this talk, we'll look at common design challenges and present a set of principles that serve as the basis of Percolate Studio's approach to real-time. My name is Dominic Nguyen. I'm a designer and co-founder at Percolate Studio. I design, write, and research ways to deliver more compelling user experiences. You might be familiar with my work if you use Atmosphere.js, Meteor's example apps, or have heard of Yumly. Percolate Studio is a digital studio in San Francisco and Melbourne that brings real-time products to market for our clients. Businesses from the smallest startups to the largest Fortune 500 companies trust our interdisciplinary team with their product design and engineering goals. So why does designing for real-time even matter? The reigning web paradigm since the genesis of the browser has been request response. Someone who views a web page sends a request to the content server. The server receives the request and responds with the page. This constraint results in linear experiences punctuated by page refreshes. While it's perfect for the internet's original intent of viewing static documents, we've come a long way since then. Our technology and capabilities have evolved. In 2015, we want the web to do more, to tell us what to eat, to guide us to our next destination, even to adjust our thermostats. We expect apps to react to changes in the system. Prior to real-time, the provenance of actions was clear. They could be attributed to a single user and confirmed with a page refresh. Now, add several users to the system who act on the same data and whose interface is updated reactively. Imagine the difficulty in communicating system logic to the end user. When interface changes in front of someone despite their inaction, there's opportunity for distrust to take hold. In the real-time world, our challenges are not only to build delightful features, but to translate complexity and illuminate causation. Translation is to express the sense of words in another language. It is expressing the complexity within our apps in a way that is natural and easy to understand. In practice, it's just reassuring users that we've registered their actions and something is happening. Causation is a relationship between cause and effect. Our goal is to eliminate relationships in data, which just means to show how 2 data points can lead to a new insight. Creators can harness the power of real-time to deliver next-generation web experiences. However, creating great apps is not just a factor of having power, but using it well. 3 principles guide how we approach real-time: be state-aware, expect change, and preserve context. Be state-aware. The user should know the state of the system at all times. Our world is irrational. We build frameworks like governments and machines and apps to provide structure to an otherwise unpredictable system. Our goal when creating real-time apps is to communicate that our digital world is in fact rational. So let's see some concrete examples. Connection status. Connection dropouts are a frequent occurrence. Let's take a look at different ways to handle this. On the left, most apps don't actually notify you if the connection is spotty. User-submitted actions without active connection are liable to be lost. Be state-aware by communicating the factors outside of the app's control that could lead to unexpected results. Loading. Users often wait on content due to low bandwidth or weighty assets. Be proactive by indicating the system is processing their actions and loading new information. Confirmation. Show that your app has empathy for user goals. Many apps suffer from under-communication of state. For instance, when a user makes a change, say deleting an item, they'd like to know if it was successful. Show that your app is listening and cares about the user by responding to their actions. The second principle is expect change. The product should communicate what will happen when a user acts. Surprises in a logical system are terrifying. Consider the mechanical precision of an automobile. Surprises in that system are flat tires and engine smoke. Like a car, an app translates immense machine effort in a user-friendly manner. Unlike the car, the digital medium allows us to anticipate and inform users of change. Communicating results is one way to set expectations. When drastic state changes are possible, foreshadow the result of actions. A common mistake in the design of real-time systems is to render interfaces without notifying the user. This leads to experiences that are unpredictable. Giving users opportunities to process what will happen prevents surprises. Skeleton templates make the app feel more responsive by foreshadowing layout. In many cases, real-time apps defer rendering layout till all relevant data has arrived. You've probably experienced this yourself. However, since the templates of isomorphic apps are already on the client, we can show a skeleton layout that foreshadows new screens and sets the expectation that data will fill the empty spaces. The last principle is preserve context. The user should know where content comes from and where it belongs. Since we can't possibly see or even consume what's happening at all times in real-time apps, it's important that we establish and reinforce the sense of space, where elements live in relation to each other. Doing so means that we create landmarks that the user can rely on to get their bearings. Consistent placement. New content should appear in predictable locations. Let's take a look. Reactive apps can determine where items should be placed through diffing. However, this isn't always intuitive. If you'll notice, new items appeared on the left-hand side. Get users accustomed to navigating to key points in your app to find what they're looking for. New items in the latter example appear only at the top. Maintain bearings. Sometimes content just can't appear in a predictable location. A classic example is adding items to a list sorted by item title reactively. The items just appear out of nowhere. You can preserve context by articulating state changes that do not appear in predictable locations. Animation, in this case, can be used to great effect to communicate where content is loading, and slowing an interaction can sometimes result in greater clarity of the experience. Finally, saving scroll position. When moving back and forth between distinct screens, we often forget to preserve context by saving a user's position, where they were. Ensuring that a user can return to the same scroll position preserves the continuity of the experience and saves time. Users should be accomplishing their goals, not trying to trace where they came from. Finally, principles are foundations to build upon. These principles serve as our starting point when crafting real-time experiences. And I encourage all creators to discover what actually works for them. But for a head start, try being state-aware, expecting change, and preserving context. Many of these ideas apply beyond real-time systems. You've probably seen them elsewhere. However, sometimes the latest technology makes us forget that we're creating software for people. Thank you. And say hello to me on Twitter. And feel free to follow up with me after the talk if you want app-specific questions answered.
Do we have any questions for Dom?
Max?
Yes. When it comes to mobile interfaces, do you prefer web or native?
When it comes to mobile interfaces, do I prefer web or native? The user experience gap still exists between web and native. If my business is predicated on competing on user experience or design, I would say native. If my business was about trying to deliver an experience to the most amount of people, then the question is kind of muddied a bit, and it would probably lean towards web.
Do you have any favorite packages for following some of those principles? I mean, like always showing a loading screen,
Yep.
scroll position, things like that. Where do you normally, what's your first?
So we have this package at Percolate Studio. It's called Percolate Momentum. That gentleman over there wrote the package. And what it does is it helps us, so for instance, skeleton templates, it helps us animate items into view in a way that feels right and allows us to control the animation via JavaScript. Percolate Momentum, and I'm sure there's other packages around. Just check on Atmosphere. Yeah.
I think Sam had a question.
I forgot.
Oh, okay. Any other questions for Dom? All right, well, thank you so much. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if you need to use the restroom or grab a drink, please do so. If you're giving a lightning talk, please come up to the front so we can get you mic'd up. See you in 5 minutes. Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. Now on to lightning talks. First up, we have Luca Musi.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Luca. I'm the author of the user account packages. And I'll give you a brief presentation about what's going on about the refactoring I'm doing to get to version 2. So who knows the user account packages? Raise your hands. Wow, good. And who's using it? Not bad. So you already know probably where to find the packages. It's a Meteor organization. You can go on GitHub or on Atmosphere. And I've set up a Trello board to try to track what's going on for version 2, which I hope to be able to follow myself, because I don't have that much time at the moment. And below, you see the 10 packages actually published on the Atmosphere. As you might know, it's a suite of packages providing templates for login, logout, registering, and whatsoever. So user accounts management. And the aim is to get pre-built in place for more or less all CSS framework we have out there, and have it very easy to configure and to customize it, changing more or less templates, text, and whatsoever. The idea when I wrote it was to keep the logic separated from the templates, because the logic is always the same, and it's actually just wrapping the accounts API Meteor provides. And so I've ended up keeping the two aspects separated and write templates for the different front-end frameworks. Most used are Bootstrap, Semantic UI, and so on. There are more or less 8 at the moment, plus a wrapper to animate the templates with Famous, actually using Famous Views by Nguyen. So what you get is one single template, basically. It's 2, actually. The sign-in button you can put on an F-bar. And the main template, which is 80 form and will be UA form in version 2, has a number of different states. And it uses Blaze reactivity to display the parts which are needed based on the current state. So for example, you can go to sign in, put your password, then realize that you didn't register yet, change the state, and you're going to keep the password inside the input element, but there's no session variable keeping the password. It's just the very same piece of the template which Blaze kept displayed. Then there's support for internationalization, different languages, and it's all reactive, so you can have your user select the current language and see the templates changing languages. And it's easily configurable. I'm sorry, it's a bit small here, but just to give you some example, you can have the labels or not. You can display placeholder. You can put in, oh sorry, this is on the sign in, more stuff, and that's it. So what's going on for version 2? I'm trying to find some time to refactor everything, to sweep all the issues that have been raised so far, which is basically having independent templates to be shown on the same page and to be able to have a different UI framework when you're developing an application both for the desktop and the mobile. Then the hierarchical architecture I'm going to use will have a number of plugin packages to provide different kind of routing, for example, iron routing or flow routing, different kind of internationalization. So I'm trying to raise the abstraction layer. And finally, a very quick demo. This is what I'm using right now to test the progress. So you have different templates which can have their own state. We are seeing here Semantic UI and Bootstrap at the same time because we have skins which are loaded dynamically, and that I'm also keeping track of the instances you have, and you can have errors or messages on one single template. That's it, and thank you for your time, and if you have questions, I'll take it.
Any questions?
That's
All
it.
right, thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay, next up is Harry Ward.
Thank you. All right, hello everybody. My name is Harry Ward. I spoke last week about a concept called, or last month, about Guide Pool, which is for fishing outfitters and guides. With the same group of guys, we came up with an idea 2 weeks ago called Text Pool, which leverages that same name and is yet a little bit different concept. It's wrapped around text messaging, and what I'm about to show you is a product that I built in 2 weeks, and we signed our first customer today, so it's kind of a cool deal. So the overall purpose of this app is nothing that's going to blow your mind. It's the ability to send text messages to a bunch of people, right? So, and then also gather text messages in a digital way. So with this, I'm able to create a promo, tie it to a pool. A pool is like a group of people that you want to text. So this, we'll use Meteor, for example. So maybe they want to send a text to everybody in San Francisco about this, about upcoming dev shops. They can set the background image. They can set the logo. They can say, oops. They can say, dev shop, reminders. Get a text. A good example of this is my roommate is like a hardcore Meteor guy, and he didn't know there was a dev shop today. So I had to remind him, but if he would have got a text message, he would have known. So what's cool about this is once you create this landing page, which I did super fast, I can track all the page views, so I can share this on my Facebook. I can embed it on my website, and so I can kind of see the performance there. I can also track the signups, and I can do all that with a nice little short link. Here's a view of what a customer would experience. If we go to mobile, it's just a really simple landing page where they can sign in, and when they do, I'm now able to go to demo pool and say, hey, there's an upcoming dev shop. Don't miss it. And so notice this turns into a short link that's also trackable. So there's actually a few people in this room that I've shown this to, so they're on this list. And so we all just received a text message. I'm able to see that 4 out of 4 delivered, and if someone, Kirk, if you could click on, actually it's a localhost link, so that's not gonna work, but anyway, it tracks links. And then what's great about this whole concept is that I integrated Stripe, so it's all contingent on how many text messages you send and how much you're gonna be charged. So at the end of the month, it says, all right, this guy has 1,000 text messages, but he sent 2,000, so I'm gonna charge him 2 cents for the additional 1,000 text messages. And with Stripe, once you get them to join a subscription, you're able to charge them without them really consenting. So it just kind of goes through, and it's like, boom, it emails them a receipt, like everything's taken care of. So at this point, it just kind of runs on its own. Any questions?
What service are you using to send text?
Twilio.
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, he asked me what service I was using to send text messages, and the answer was Twilio. Any other questions? Cool.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next up we have DC Collier.
Let's see if that's going to sync on the screen there. Oops. Hello, Google Docs. Hang on. Let's try it again. Okay. So I'm going to be talking today about something called Gachat, which is a framework for doing graphical chat applications. So what are those exactly? If we look at the evolution of the UI on the web, we've gone from clicking links to typing in keywords to talking with Slack bots in basic sentences. And now the next generation is what I call these conversational UIs, where you have chat, graphs, images, all kinds of things mixed up in a stream together. And I think Meteor is absolutely perfect for creating these kind of applications. But they're actually quite complicated to build. So my company has been building an app called Comic English, which is like an English language learning application. And so I'm going to run through a little bit of the demo of that app and then show you some of the framework that we've developed for it. I'm having problems with these glitchy windows here today, so let's try again. Comic English is like a kind of a chat game where you're trying to talk to different characters, and you play a detective, and you're solving mysteries about things that happened. And it's for learning English. So if you don't know any of these words, you can just click on research and get like Kenkyu. And as you continue through this game, you use these different kind of sentence builders to talk to the characters. So this chairman of the board is a rather shifty character who is asking you to help him find out who actually leaked the research in his company. And so basically, he's hired you to find that out. And after you go into the boardroom, you can talk to different characters. You can search for clues. And as you're doing that, you're using all of these different types of widgets to actually build up sentences. So let's just, let me jump back and explain a little bit about how some of these widgets are actually built. And so for example, one widget that I showed there is the choice widget. And what we're aiming to do is this kind of scalable UI so that in a text client, like for example Slack, you would see a question with a couple of choices, and then you could maybe type the answer. You could maybe just type in red pill. But if you have a graphical client, so if I come back here and I go back to the demo menu, if we have a graphical client like this one here, you can just tap the red pill button. And I'll just move that over a little bit. You could just tap the red pill button, and then it would actually give you the full sentence back to the user. So some other examples of widgets that we've got are a slider. So for example, if you have a numerical input in here in the widget, someone can drag across and say, how much awesome, 84%, and that will send it back. And it actually loops back into the chat environment. So for example, we've got a scoreboard here that's highlighting that number. And at the same time, it's also showing you've got task complete. So that actually leads through to another thing that we have in a lot of games is this idea of a task system. And you'll see there's like a little progress bar here at the top that's monitoring how far you are and how many tasks you've actually completed in that chat as well. So there are various different types of widgets and components that we've got in here. YouTube, obviously, audio, video, questions and answers. You can do quizzes in here. We're tracking player state. And additionally, we actually also have a few levels of natural language processing going in here. So if I go into, actually, I think if I just go into the pets demo, oops. Then we're talking to a character. It's like, do you prefer dogs or cats? And if I say I prefer, I don't know, snakes, some weird thing, we're actually using an external natural language processing system to figure out what the user said. And then on top of that, if the user says something that we really just don't know what they're actually saying, we are also able to jump in and have a human actually monitoring the conversation. So I have a little pop-up over here where I can masquerade as the guide, and she can say like snakes, or she could, for example, shout it. And so basically it's this kind of blended experience between artificial intelligence and graphical chat and various natural language tools that we've got here. We're also working on a browser-based authoring tool to make a lot of these things a lot easier to author. And Meteor has this problem that it's basically a browser-based client, but in fact that means that you can get distribution inside things like WeChat or Line or all of these kind of messaging platforms, which are 6 of the top 10 apps on smartphones are messaging clients. So right now this project is not quite open source, but I'd love to collaborate with some other people, so please send me mail at dc@rickeye.co, and we will take it to the next level. 5 minutes, thank you. Oh, one other small plug. We're doing sometimes do a Meteor mini meetup in San Francisco. If a few more people want to join, we'll do another one. There's not one scheduled right now. Thank you. Is that it?
Any questions?
Hey.
I was just curious, you said you're using an API for natural language processing.
Yeah, right now we're using wit.ai, which is Facebook's thing. I've also looked at what's API.ai, and there's a great project called Superscript.js, which is kind of includes all kinds of other, WordNet and ConceptNet and other kind of projects altogether. But basically, the important thing is there's these multiple levels from a very simple parsing language. I think a lot of natural language processing is good at actually analyzing your content, but the script language is good at creating interesting responses to it. I mean, once you've broken it down to, like our syntax there was, nouns and verbs and words and things like that. Actually, I haven't got the editor open here. But the important thing is then how do you do something interesting with that to actually give it back to the user? And that's where the scripting language comes in that allows you to create something interesting as a result.
I saw the phrase visual chat markup on one of your slides. Do the participants have the ability to draw or sketch or somehow manipulate the visuals?
So the question is, it's a graphical chat framework is how I'm positioning it. The users can either, it depends on the client they've got. If they've just got a text client, they can just type. If they have a chat client, if they have a richer client, like an HTML browser or something, they can just click on visual controls. It's kind of like, Slack is DOS, and this is like Windows or something like that. It's a graphical chat client with a bunch of widgets and a quick way to build applications that are like chat applications, like the next generation of mobile apps are going to be. I mean, Siri is kind of voice, but this is more like graphical, like if you're on a train and you can't talk and you want to push buttons. Great.
All right, thank you so much.
Please get in touch and let's work together on it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Scott Lobdell.
Hold on. All right. So this is probably just a shorter talk than everybody else's, but this is just basically a quick thing I put together. So my name is Scott, and I work for Uber. And a problem that we've had lately is that we're getting way too many candidates that we can actually handle in our interviewing process. So unfortunately, we need to find better ways to screen people in the beginning that saves everybody time. So there's a lot of different conventional routes to that. I mean, typically you have a phone screen, or maybe you try and delegate to a technical recruiter to try and ask technical questions that you can then gauge from later and so forth. But we just wanted to take a sort of experimental approach, I guess. And so our idea has been to just create bad code, put it on GitHub, open up a pull request, and then have those candidates review, have them review the code. And in that way, this should be able to save everybody time. You can glean a lot of information. You can also kind of establish a standard for like where you can place potential candidates. So this is just a private GitHub repo we set up. And all I'm just going to do is just demonstrate this little script here. Take a few seconds to run, make a few API calls. The idea is after the script finishes, then you can invite a candidate to the project with their GitHub username. If I just refresh this page, then you can see there's a new unique repository with a specific UUID. And then this is it. There's some pull requests. And from here, the candidate would just review the code. You're able to see when their start and stop time happened, and then just kind of go from there. And that's pretty much it. We haven't actually implemented this, so we'll see if it works well or not.
Any questions for Scott? All right, thank you so much. Last but not least, we have Max Saven.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Max, and I like to build stuff. And the latest thing I built is called Meteor Toys. So it starts out as a debug-only package. What this means is that when you install it into your application, you know what? I'm going to restart. Hi, everyone. My name is Max, and I built a package called Meteor Toys. So when you build your Meteor apps, there's a lot of repetitive tasks that you have to run over and over and over. And when I saw those patterns, I built packages that automate it for you. So the first one is called Mongo. When you're tweaking your database, you have to write the collection, the action, the changes over and over and over and over. And I figured, why not just build something to do that for me so that I can just. And I figured that the time I put into that would be the same as the manual queries. And the first one is called Mongo. And we can open up one of our collections, browse through all the documents, and then make a change just by clicking on the values. Now, the way this works is it actually has its own set of methods which will modify the document for you. And that's great because you can take the insecure package out of your application and then continue to use it in its natural state. Now, if you want to insert a new document, you just press duplicate and type in the new value, and there's a new document. Now, in the Pro version, we have what's called the trash can. So when you delete documents, you could bring them back. And there is a collection reset. So you can reset collections individually, right, from the UI. Now, on the opposite corner, we have JetSetter. This is the same thing as Mongo, but for session variables. And you can view the values, view all your sessions, modify them, drop them, et cetera, et cetera. And in the Pro version, we have support for reactive dictionaries, which you should be using instead of session variable. Anyways, up on top is the orb interface. And basically, every time I see a way to improve the experience, I build a small orb to deliver that. The first one is called, well, I guess the last one, is called hot reload. You press on it, you get a hot reload. You may have seen that before. Next up is status. So Dominic gave a great talk about real-time interfaces. And when you build locally, you always have a connection to the server. Being from New York, I always experience a connection loss. And I really appreciate when the app is aware of that and does something to enhance the experience. So what this does is it lets you disconnect from the server in just one click, and you can see the message up on top. And then you could reconnect just like that. Next to that, we have DDP Listen. This bugs all the data that goes in and out of your application and lets you view it in the console. It's a really good way to get a taste of how DDP works and how data syncs with the client. Next to that is subscriptions. We have all our subscriptions, their parameters, and we can see what happens if one of them breaks. Next to subscriptions are publications. We get all the publications, and then we just paste in the parameters, and it starts a new subscription. Now, when you type in the values here, it'll try to parse it into JSON, and then if that doesn't work, it'll fall back into a string. So it's flexible for every situation. This one is one of my favorites. When you start building in Meteor, one of the best things for it is the auto-publish, because you can build so fast. And then when you take it out, it's just not the same anymore. You have to check, are the documents there? Does this work? Is my subscription broken? So what AutoPub does is it lets you publish all your documents to the client in a click, just for that client. So if you take a look here, we have 7 to-do items. We do AutoPub. Now there's 22. And you can see this app is thoughtful because it runs a query on the template level as well as the publication. Next up is method. We get all our methods, parameters, type in the values, and run a call. And I think that's a lot nicer than doing Meteor, call, method name, then go to your source code, check the parameters, make sure it lines up, function, ER, console log, right? You just type it in, 1, 2, 3, and you're good to go. Following that up is shell. So you're writing a new method. You got the method call in your browser console. You can rerun it. But you still have to tweak the method every couple of seconds. One more minute, please. Every couple of seconds to basically make sure it works right. So with shell, you can run the code on the server. And then when you have the right one, the source code for it is in the console. You just copy and paste it, and you're good to go. And the final one is called authenticate. So when you build your next Slack clone, between now and that 6 months where you raise that $1 million, you have to sign in and out of the application 50 times to make sure that all the permissions work. Authenticate lets you sign into them with just one click. So it keeps track of your accounts. Press. And it would log you in. And anyways, next to that is the Meteor Tours website. So the first question people have is, how do these packages work? Is it safe for production? So the cool thing is that Meteor has a property called debug only, and just one more minute, which basically, yeah. So basically what debug only does is it tells the Meteor build process to exempt the package from the production app. So when you deploy, they're no longer there. And as for the packages themselves, it's just $100. You get a 1-year update license, and you can use it on as many apps as you want. Thank you for listening.
Have any questions for Max?
Yes.
Demo the output of the message.
Yeah. So I'll open up a new tab. So I press Control-M, open up Listen. I start the process. I can get a counter here. I would have put the actual data in the module, but it overloads the browser, so it's best in the console. We open up the console, and we have all our data. Sweet. Any more questions? I think one of my top customers, John, may have a question.
Which is your favorite widget and why?
So I think my favorite one is Authenticate, because when you're building an app with more than one user, it gets really frustrating to keep track of the accounts and all that stuff. And next to that is Autopub, because Autopublish is super nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for our speakers for this Dev Shop. Thank you, everyone, for joining us online, and thank you, everyone here. And thank you, another round of applause for all of our speakers. All the talks were great tonight. If you're watching online, please make sure to subscribe to be notified for new videos that are coming up, and especially live Dev Shop events. You can rewatch tonight's live stream anytime, and we'll also be posting each of these talks in about a week. Let's see. We also upload talks from our Dev Shop London every month, so definitely subscribe even if you come to the San Francisco event. Our community team is actually in London right now for Dev Shop London. Today, or I guess it was yesterday, Gadi Cohen spoke about Famous and Meteor. So our next Dev Shop here in San Francisco is going to be Thursday, July 30th, so please RSVP. We're looking forward to seeing all your lovely faces again. And for those that are in the office now, can you please throw one piece of trash away and stack your chairs in the back corner? And feel free to stay around for snacks and beverages. And thanks again. See you next time.